Oh. Okay, so let me do a share screen. So I think I have some interesting stuff for you today, just to at least consider. Can everybody see this screen here?
Yes.
And
Yes.
thank you. Just to say, this isn't my favorite subject, and I do add a lot of the Word of God in, so that, the Word of God is always the best part of things. But it seems like there's so much going on in the world scene today that I just thought, it'd be a good idea to look at some stuff and see what they're pushing and see what the tricks are. So that's why I titled this Global Deception Straight Ahead. I had some major disruptions these last few days. Sounds like I did the previous week with the cat, but this is something else the last couple of days. So this isn't as polished as I would like, but hopefully you can have mercy on me. I just tried to get a bunch of information and put it together, But for those that haven't seen talk about the man-child and the dragon, I just thought I would go over that real quickly. So John, in the book of Revelation, he's caught away into the heavenlies, and he's being shown these signs and visions. And Revelation 12:1 says, "And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet." So this, most scholars kind of agree, this is speaking of the church. The woman is often pictured as the church, and then the sun is the new covenant. She's clothed in the sun, and then the moon is under her feet. She's no longer under the law per se. She's in a new covenant, but the moon is still there. It provides light, and there's a lot of wisdom that comes from the old covenant, and a lot of important things. So it's not just done away, but it's no longer over her, ruling her, as it were. And on her head, a crown of 12 stars. So this would be the apostles, it's the woman of these churches who at least see themselves as under the apostolic teaching. And she was with child, so something's going to be born with this woman. And remember, Jesus talked about in the end times, he said there would be birth pangs, right? He said the wars and the rumors of wars and race against race, all these are birth pangs, but something is going to be birthed. Anytime you have birth pains, there's going to be something birthed in this picture. So she was with child. She cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Another sign in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. This dragon over time has had 7 heads. There have been 7 world governments. And the last head is pictured as having 10 horns. And later in Revelation 17, it says these 10 horns are 10 kings who rule, but they don't have a kingdom. So they're powerful men who, own the Federal Reserve, the World Banks, all these banks. They're 10 powers, probably families or men that rule as kings because they have all the money. But chapter 17 of Revelation says they have no kingdom as yet, as of the time John is seeing this vision, that he's picturing that. And so, and then 7 diadems on the heads. So that means the 7th world government has come in at this point. The 10 horns don't have crowns yet. They're just pictured as 10 horns, but the 7 heads all seven now have crowns. So that shows that we will see the last world government system come in before the man-child is caught up. And so a lot of people are going to say, yeah, see, I told you the rapture was false, all this stuff, look, we're in world government. You guys had it all wrong. But they're the ones that had it all wrong. They didn't know that world government was going to come in before. So verse 4, his tail, speaking of deception, the dragon looks at you with this big flame, blowing face, but the tricky thing comes around from behind. His tail sweeps and takes a third of the stars of heaven and throws them to the earth. And I think this is showing that they were at one time spiritually minded and seeking the things of God, but when the dragon did this trick, he caused them to become very earthly minded and try to build out a kingdom here on earth and fight for things here on earth. And the dragon stood before the woman. So this is where what we're looking at today, how the dragon is standing. He's not doing anything about the woman. He could just attack her, but he doesn't. He just stands there ready, and because he knows the woman's going to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child, because that's what he's worried about. That's what he wants to go after. So all the things the globalists are doing right now are a part of this, where the dragon sees this child coming and he doesn't like it. And so he doesn't want a global mass ministry. So he wants to control and shut down and make people take injections, or they can't have a travel pass. And so all these travel bans and so are coming in, like Bill Gates's ID 2020, where everyone has to have an ID. You cannot access the internet or your money, your bank accounts, unless you've got this ID and have taken the injections that they want. And you can be sure they'll have more with the new disease X that they say is coming. So as we go through this, remember this verse where the dragon stands before the woman, but he's really doing things and setting up because he wants to devour the child as soon as it's born. So keep that in mind when we talk about the different things going on. And then verse 5, we see that no matter what the devil throws at us, he doesn't win. It's not successful, because verse 5 says she gave birth to a son, a male child, or man-child, as it says in other translations, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. So this is the rapture. And this child in Isaiah is pictured as Zion bringing forth her children, a man-child. It's pictured as a child, but also as a group of people, which the Bible does that a lot of different times. Because the man-child bride has overcome, and that goes back to Revelations 3, where Jesus says, if you do this and this, I will keep you out of the hour of trial that is coming upon the whole earth. So that's what we're working toward, is to keep moving in that direction so that we can be kept out of that hour of trial that's coming. But because the man-child has overcome, also called the bride of Christ, and she's caught up to God, the devil then loses his authority to accuse before God day and night, like he does now. the Bible says he's accusing us before God day and night. Look at them. They did this wrong. They did that wrong. They don't do this. He's accusing constantly. But he and the demons are thrown down to earth right after this overcoming group is caught up, because they then lose their authority. Revelations 12:9, just a couple verses later. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Remember, there was a time when Jesus' disciples went out, and he sent them out. I think it was when he sent them out 70, 2 by 2, and he told them to bring healing and do this and this. And they came back and they said, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. So they were like surprised about this. And they were casting out demons in Jesus' name. And then he said, I saw Satan falling from heaven. And so people think that Satan fell from heaven back then, but that was just, the Bible often says things in certain ways. You can't always go by the words on the paper. But Jesus, by faith, when he is seeing the apostles minister in his name and in power, he's saying, I saw Satan falling from heaven. So he's saying, what you guys are doing is a part of Satan when he is falling. I'm seeing it by faith, but it happens up here in Revelation 12:9. Just a little side point there. It is then that we are shown the picture of the final world government beast head that has a death blow. So when the man-child is caught up, the devil and the demons are thrown down to earth. And then the next picture is we're seeing that the seventh head of the beast that we just saw that had a crown has now been slain, as if it has been slain. Yet it had a fatal wound, a death blow, I think it says. But now his death blow is healed. So it was a death blow and then a rapture, and then the beast head comes back to power with the man-child and that group gone. And so continuing in Revelation 13:3, and the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast, which is really kind of sick when you think about it, because here the beast has been exposed, it's had his death blow. But I think there's a certain element in the world that is going to be antichrist, and they're not going to like what's going on. And then when the man-child is caught up, then they're back in love with the beast again, because they're saying, boy, we got this beast system, we'll have no more wars. Like it says in the next verse, it says they worship the dragon because he gave authority to the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? We don't have to fear China. We don't have to fear Russia. We don't have to fear Gaza. All these nations are now under the thumb of the beast, and we now have peace because the 10 kings are in control, and the nations have been beaten down by the beast. And so they're just amazed at this beast, how it just comes back from this death blow. And there was given to him, or it, the beast, the dragon, a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies. And we see that in Daniel also, the little horn comes up among the other 10 horns. And authority to act was given to him for 42 months. So he actually has power and authority And I believe this is from God, this is talking about. It's the, the hour of darkness that he has, that the devil and his people have. And this is what they're waiting for. They're just dreaming of this 42-month period. Revelation 3:13-6, and he opened his mouth, i.e. the Antichrist, in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. And that word for tabernacle is skene in the Greek. It's tent or tabernacle. That's what the tabernacle under Moses was called. And then they had the temple that was the more fixed location. A tabernacle is made to be pulled up and moved at times, whereas a temple is built on a foundation and fixed on earth at a certain place. So this tabernacle is God's people, his bride, who he will tabernacle within. But here they're in heaven, and the devil is blaspheming God and his tabernacle, i.e. those who dwell in heaven, those who just got caught up, the man-child, in the rapture. Now, before we look at the globalist satanic deceptions, let's first look at the picture of what God will accomplish in us, in his people, because focusing on this picture will help us no matter what the enemy throws at us. So Revelation 21:3, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. So here's that same word, the skene of God is with men. And so that's what was going on here in Revelation also, that the devil was blaspheming this tabernacle. And this was God's desire from the beginning. Let us make man in our image and likeness. It's God's plan throughout history. This was his whole focus. And Jesus fulfilled that. It says that God dwelt in him. The fullness of God dwelt in him. Well, this is now the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God, and of course, it's meaning men and women. It's the bride of Christ, the man-child, the whole group of people that are a part of this last day body, and possibly others throughout history. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them. What an amazing thing that will be. God himself will be with them. And that's going to be in a very deep, intimate way beyond anything we've seen yet. So this goes right along with the picture of the man-child in Isaiah 66, where God is wanting to dwell with these group. So the Lord, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you build unto me? Where is the place of my rest? So God is looking for a place of rest, and he's basically saying, any house you build for me doesn't do any good. Heaven is my throne and the earth is my foot. How am I going to dwell in a little house that you build? But what he is saying is, where is the place of my rest? For all those things my hand made, all the wood that you have that you're going to build this house with. And all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this will I look, to this person. You can see the italicized man, it's not in there. So to this will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit and trembleth at my word. That is the big thing that differentiates the Philadelphia church to the Laodicea church and to the bride of Christ and the man-child. compared to those that will attack the bride and attack the man-child, is trembling at God's word and saying, okay, whatever it is, I might want this, but God's word says that, and that's what I'm going with. And not that we have all truth given right now, that we have all understanding, but we are coming into that slowly by slowly as we stay willing. So he says, he that killeth an ox as if he slew a man. He's basically showing a time coming that he's not going to be accepting these old deals that they would do, where you sacrifice a lamb and do these different things. Yea, they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abomination. But the Laodicea church will choose their own ways. They're rich and increase with goods, Revelation 3 says. And they have need of nothing, but they don't realize they're missing it. They have, Jesus said they need eye salve. And what that is like, with the football games today, they would put eye salve on real sunny days, a dark patch under their eyes, and that would help so the sun didn't blind them. But so the Philadelphia church was not blinded by the globalist false light, but the Laodiceans were. And their souls delighteth in their abominations. I also will choose their delusions, and I will bring their fears upon them, because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they did not hear, but they did evil before my eyes, and chose that which I delighted not. Hear the word of the Lord, you that tremble at his word, your brethren that hated you. See, this is what it's going to come down to. And cast you out for my name's sake. There's going to be a separation between the church, the Philadelphia, and the woman. And she's going to push out the man-child. It's going to be a birthing, but it's going to be a pushing out also. And so these people, your brethren that hated you and pushed you out, cast you out, said, let the Lord be glorified, but he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. And then the very next verse, a voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to his enemies. So all of a sudden you're hearing, right when this man-child is getting ready to be born, you're hearing a voice out of the temple from the Lord. It's like a shout, a very powerful voice that is going to render recompense to his enemies. And then right there at that picture, we have the next verse. Before she travailed, remember the woman? She brought forth, her pains came. I'm sorry, before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? So this isn't going to be one person being born, the man-child. It's a nation. It's a ethnos, a new race of people that are in Christ's image and likeness, and that they're a part of his last day body, and he is dwelling within them in a powerful way. We get the body already, and then he comes and inhabits it, as it were. For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. So as soon as we see this travail, that these birth pangs, that's a sign that things are going to be coming. So travail, we see here, Zion travailed. Remember Jesus saying these things, i.e. wars, race against race, famines, and earthquakes, are the beginning of birth pains, Jesus said. So something, the man-child, is going to be birthed out of the woman, out of the outward church. Malachi 3:1 says, "Behold, I am going to send my messenger, and he will clear the way before me. And the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple." So this is another powerful picture. And I think this has a primary reference to Jesus, to God inhabiting Jesus, right when John, when he came up out of the water at his baptism and his worldwide ministry started. I think it also has a secondary to the man-child and the bride. The Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple. It's like we're going to be growing and one as every joint supplies to a certain point, but at some point the Lord is going to suddenly come to his temple, and then powerful things happen. And the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight in, behold, he is coming, saith the Lord of hosts. So Jesus in Luke 12:40 said, you too, he's talking to his disciples, you too be ready, for the Son of Man is coming in an hour that you do not expect. So that's kind of a scary one when you think about it. And it just shows that we need each other and we need to keep moving forward, and we need to, as Jesus warned the apostles and the disciples, to be ready. And the word come here, where it says, or coming, the Son of Man is coming, it does not have to refer to the second coming or the rapture. It can also refer to Christ coming to his perfected body to begin a powerful earthly ministry, just like we saw with John the Baptist. Jesus had nothing for 30 years, no miracles, nothing of note. I mean, yeah, there were a few things of note, I should say, like when he was 12 years old and he was astounding the teachers and scribes at the temple with the things he understood and knew. But I just mean he had no outward ministry. Nobody really knew of him.
Al,
Yeah?
I just got a text from Lynn. Apparently she's not hearing the verses that you're reading. So if you could, she's asking for you to bring the verses as
Okay.
you read. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bonnie. Sorry about that, Lynn. I forgot you can't see the stuff. But the last couple verses, Lynn, Luke 12:40 is be ready, for the Son of Man comes at an hour you do not expect. Malachi 3:1 is where the Lord will come suddenly to his temple. And then Isaiah 66:1 through 8 was what I had brought before that. And you'll always be able to watch this on video later and see the verses too. So if I forget anything, you can fast forward to that part and see whatever verse it was. So back to the picture of the man-child being caught up to God and being pictured as the tabernacle of God. We saw Revelation 13:6. He opened his mouth in blasphemies, that's the Antichrist, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. And then that is, you can see as italicized, it's not there. It really doesn't change it a whole lot, even if you do leave it in. But the point is his tabernacle is those who dwell in heaven. They were caught up from earth, and they now, as his tabernacle, they were his tabernacle on earth during the man-child ministry, and now they dwell in heaven, and they're still considered his tabernacle, for God dwells in them and among them. the new heaven and new earth that takes place after the 1,000-year millennium has no temple. So we see Revelation 21:22. This whole chapter is pretty much about the new heaven and new earth. But verse 22 says, and I saw no temple in it, for the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb are its temple. So just God himself and the Lamb are its temple. And then the next verse says, and the city has no need of the sun or the moon to shine upon it, for the glory of God has illumined it, and its lamp is the Lamb. So the Lamb is the lamp of it. So God is the light. The glory of God gives the light, but it's primarily coming through the Lamb. But I think it's going to be all of us who are in the Lamb too. It says we will shine as stars, And a few scriptures before this, where John is talking about this city not needing the light of the sun and having no temple. So a few verses before that, John writes this, and one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues came and spoke with me, saying, and this is amazing when you think about it. Imagine you're John in this vision and you're seeing this powerful angel do these 7 bowls and the 7 last plagues. And then the angel walks over and starts to talk to you. I mean, you're just going to you're going to want to fall to your face on the ground, kind of thing. But the angel says, come here, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. So he saw this horrible stuff with the 7 plagues, but now he's going to show him the glories. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, sometimes called New Jerusalem in other verses, speaking of the spiritual city of Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like a very costly stone, as the stone of crystal clear jasper. And for Lynn's sake, in case I forgot those, that's Revelation 21, verses 22 and 23. And then with the bride is Revelation 21, 9 through 11. And so verse 11 again, so this New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like a very costly stone. So here, this New Jerusalem city, God sends her forth with just great brilliance, which is his glory. So just saying, we need to remember these pictures and know that no matter how things look up ahead, God is going to do something very powerful. And keeping these pictures in mind will help us have the faith to overcome. And remembering that the joy of the Lord is our strength. So with all that in mind, now let's move on to the globalist deception that the Word of God says is coming. Sorry, I'm just making this bigger here, so hoping everybody can see it. So, I'll just read this. So not only God, Jesus, Paul, and John all warn of deception in the last days. So that's a huge thing when you think about it, that all these, not all these people, but God and Jesus and 2 of the major apostles all warning about the same thing. But it's not just deception, but it's the deception in the last days. And And if they are right, which of course we believe they are, then we should be seeing some of this deception growing around us today. And so I'd like to look at some of that is global or national, however, these various deceptions that they are bringing in. And, a lot of this isn't brand new that they're bringing in, but it seems to be heightened and coming to a new level of deception. There is a reason the Bible refers to humans as sheep, and that's because we/they can go astray. Matthew 24:3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed. So, with your coming and the end of the world, Jesus answers, take heed that no man deceive you. So, that's the main thing that is going on at the end of the world is deception. And in the parallel passage in Luke, which is Revelation 21:8, Jesus replied, watch out that you are not deceived. So that was the parallel passage when they asked him, what'll be the sign, of the end times and your coming. And here Paul warns us, and these aren't the only verses, by the way, that I'm giving you. I'm just giving you some. 1 Timothy 4:1, the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times, I think that in the Greek, I think that's the last times, some shall depart from the faith. And remember, we saw that with the dragon's tail. He took the tail and sneakily brought a third of the stars and threw them to the earth. But Paul says the Spirit it speaketh expressly. So Paul is saying this is something that the Holy Spirit was expressly speaking, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So those are the things that are going to try to take us off and form us into something else other than the bride of Christ and the man-child. And John points out in a last days scripture that the devil deceives the whole world. So here's the Apostle John, which we already saw this verse. This is right after the man-child is caught up. So it's in that timing. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. So always right in this time period, we're warned of massive deception. And then here's another one from John in Revelation 18:23. And the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer. This is the Babylonian system after the man-child has been caught up. And the voice of the bridegroom and the bride will not be heard in you any longer, for your merchants were great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. And I'm sure most of you know that's the Greek word for pharmakia, which can mean drugs or what am I trying to say? Sorcery. Yeah. It has a main meaning of sorcery, but drugs were often used along with that. And then we have God himself warning of the deception in the last days. And this was actually written by Paul, but it shows God being the main one in the action here. That last verse was Revelation 18:23, where all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. So now we're going to hear what God is saying in a sense. 2 Thess 2:8 through 10 or through 11. Verse 8, and then shall that lawless one, so the devil is called the lawless one. And boy, are we seeing that coming in today. There's so much more lawlessness happening. Like I say, in downtown Seattle, it became legal to go into a place with your shopping cart and steal up to $700 worth of stuff. And part of the reason is they want to break all the small businesses because they don't want people to have a lot of places to be able to buy things. They want to limit it to a few of their corporate controlled stores. That way it'd be easier for them to shut people off from what they need. But anyway, then shall that lawless one be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming. Verse 9, that is the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders. If you read the first couple verses of 2 Thessalonians 2, you'll see that's talking about the Antichrist and setting himself up in the temple, showing that he is God, right there in Israel. And verse 10, with all the deception of wickedness for those who perish, and this is a key, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. So that was the thing that bothered God, that they did not receive the love of the truth. Verse 11, and for this cause, or for this reason, God shall send them strong delusion. So this is God warning through Paul, but it's him that is saying, because of this, and for this reason, God will send them a deluding influence, is what NAS says, so that they might believe what is false. Let me make this bigger here real quick, sorry. Trying to zoom along here so I can get to the ending without skipping a bunch of stuff. So if the Bible is true and the devil is deceiving and misleading the whole world, we should surely be able to see signs of that happening around us now. So some of these things would be things like the jab, the injections. It goes around the whole world. The whole nations are deceived by this. And came under the umbrella of the World Health Organization and their commands that people stay 6 feet apart and wear masks and take the injections. That's one part of the deception. Another part is Bitcoin and crypto and CBDCs. So it used to be we would have gold and silver for money because it was something that was rare and it was real valuable. But the bankers wanted to be able to take us off of gold and silver. And so initially they said, well, we'll give you paper dollars and we'll hold all the gold because it's scary to carry around gold and silver. You might get robbed, whatever. We'll do paper dollars, but we'll back it by gold. But then in 1970s, I think it was, whenever it was under Nixon, they took off the gold and they said, well, we're not going to back the dollar by gold anymore now that you're all on the dollar. And so, now we've got a place where we're in debt for trillions of dollars, and some of these other nations are not liking it because they feel like they've been hoodwinked. They agreed to buy oil in dollars. So like all the Arab nations agreed, back before all this, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but they agreed to buy all their oil in dollars. So the sheiks and all those that controlled the oil got all these dollars, and then that solidified our dollar so that all nations would use the dollar. So you can pretty much go anywhere and spend the dollar. And then all these nations had to have massive reserves of our dollar, which then meant we can just print all the dollars we want. And it's just like if you had a money machine at home, you could be a billionaire by tomorrow morning if you print it up enough. Well, that's what we've been able to do, and have all this money. And so other nations are now starting to say, hey, we want to get away from this dollar trap. And that's why they went after Saddam Hussein and what's his name in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, because they were starting to talk about, hey, let's go back onto gold as backing. And so they had to be portrayed as terrorists who had to be taken down. And also they want to build out world government. But anyway, so for years they've been saying Bitcoin is for bad people, for terrorists and drug dealers. And maybe some of you have heard that. You may not know what Bitcoin is, but you just know it's this kind of weird thing that some weird people like drug dealers and stuff are using. But it was all kind of a fake thing. And bankers, the internationalist bankers like Jamie Dimon acted like they were totally against Bitcoin. That it was, oh boy, this Bitcoin is a threat to our power, But what I saw at that time was that some of the Illuminati corporations were accepting it. I can't remember who, but I think it was McDonald's and some of these others. And so I thought, wait a second, if these banks and these international powers were really against Bitcoin, then these Illuminati controlled corporations are not going to be opening the doors and accepting Bitcoin. So something was phony about it all. So, we were told that the guy who invented Bitcoin is this mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, and that he invented Bitcoin, but he didn't want to go public, and so nobody knows who he is, and all these super high level programmers say that Bitcoin is just the most amazing invention and the most amazing set of programming. And I saw one that said, there's no way that one man could program this. And he said, I think it had to be demonic powers that brought this forth. And that's kind of what I think, is that, it was brought about through the CIA and different, think tanks, and probably right from Satan, because he wanted to push the whole world onto this cryptocurrency kind of thing where you no longer have control, because all the dollars are in these digits. And right now they try to portray, oh, well, yeah, that's true if they go to central bank digital currencies called CBDCs. But they say with Bitcoin, we're fighting against the globalists. We got our own Bitcoin. They can't take it away. But the problem is they control all the on-ramps and the off-ramps. So you can't just, like if I had 10 Bitcoin and wanted to sell one to Lori and met her at SeaTac Mall to get a Bitcoin's worth about 42 grand as of today. They could arrest us because oh wait, you're trying to be a Bitcoin seller. You can't do that. You got to do it through their network. And so, and the money has to go into a bank. So at any time, they can close all the off ramps, and people that have Bitcoin can't do anything about it. They can still send it to each other, but what good does that do if you can't buy anything with it? Anyway, if you don't understand what all that means, just that's kind of what Bitcoin is. So for the last 10 years, that's the stuff we've been fed, that, oh, this Bitcoin is this amazing thing and it's fighting against the bankers. But I kind of smelled a rat in it always. And now, if you've heard the news about these Bitcoin ETFs, which is what that means is exchange traded funds. So it's like in the past, we've had gold ETFs. And what that is let's say you have an IRA and you have a bunch of money in your IRA and you want to invest it. Well, you can't buy gold. They don't want you to have actual gold, but you can put your money into an ETF where they hold the gold and you get a share, a little piece of paper that says you have money in this ETF. Well, now all these bankers that were all saying we're against Bitcoin, we just like a week ago, 15 of them, like JP Morgan and Bank of America, all these places are coming up with their own Bitcoin ETFs and buying thousands and thousands of Bitcoin to put in their ETFs so that people can use their IRAs and get in and own Bitcoin. But these people will control it, of course. So anyway, I just said all that it's part of the globalist deception to get to this place where we can't buy or sell unless we're approved by them having taken the mark, is what it'll eventually come to, the mark of the beast. One more thing that Jesus warned of is race against race. Now, in the English Bible, it says, for nation shall rise against nation, but the Greek word is ethnos. And so race against race. So do we see the controllers fomenting this today? Well,
Oh,
yes. Who said that, Lori?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We sure see that. 100% they are. At this coming Super Bowl, they're going to have a black woman that will sing what's titled the Black National Anthem. And so, people say, hey, I thought we were supposed to be one nation under God. But no, that was only the good old days when they allowed us to think that that's what we were. But now, like, what's his name? Frank Zappa says, they'll take down the curtains and you'll see a brick wall at the back of the theater. They only allowed us to think we had freedom. And now they're letting us know, no, sorry, we're in control and we're shifting this a whole different way. So, and they're very good at whipping up both sides, and they'll have, there will be legitimate reasons and legitimate problems. And they will act like they just so much care for skin color, these globalist bankers, they just so care for the poor people and those that are like the communists. They care for those that are oppressed, is how they build it. And so people are asking, well, how about us Mexicans? Do we get our Mexican national anthem? Do the Chinese get their anthem? How about one for illegal immigrants? But anyway, the point is it's all divide and conquer. That it's not, are these things good, or hey, we should have one, or it's not that. It's just the point that it's being brought in from the top down, and they have their reasons, and their reasons aren't because they love us. Their reasons are because they want war and division and to keep people against fighting among themselves and not seeing what this small group of globalists are pulling off. So this attempts to appear like it's all organic, like it's just coming out of the kneeling at the national anthem, where the, mostly blacks, but some whites would kneel at the national anthem. I think it was their way of saying, we're not for this. And I can't even remember all the history of this, but I just know it's led in, it's brought in by the Freemasons. It's all scripted, and then you have all the sheep bat and follow along in it. But the devil only comes to kill and destroy. That's why he's doing it. And how about our glorious political leaders? They're raised up through the Rothschild money control system, which owns the whole media and almost all corporations. Would they deceive us? Yes, they sure would. Would they allow a God Bless America guy to slip in and overturn all they have worked for the last few hundred years? Especially a man who came up through their very own ranks? And remember, they always provide us our own leaders, whether religious or whatever. Another aspect of the dragon positioning himself to be ready for the man-child is the global travel bans that will be coming. We had some back with C-19, but there'll be a lot more with this disease X, probably. Unless you take all their injections, you're not going to be able to be a part of this. And so they expose their injections, and that way those who see, have eyes to see, will not want to take the injections, and then they'll be sectioned off as the bad guys. And so they can get the whole world on their team against these bad people who won't go along with things. So this will be coming soon. They are ready for it to happen. And these things always come when they want them to happen. That's the amazing part. The dragon is standing before the woman, setting up their control grid, because they don't want the coming ministry. So as mentioned, part of the globalist deception is to give us one of their own people as our leader and make it look as if that leader is on our side. A political leader, a church leader. They raise these people up with their money. But either way, they want the leaders that we have to come from them, to be willing to compromise to get in on the money that you need to do a lot of these things. Many years ago, I was deceived in politics in voting and sending money to George Bush when he ran for president, as he was portrayed as kind of a Christian. And the media was totally against him. Boy, they attacked him and made it look like that he was the good guy and they were the evil media out to get him. And I had no idea that he and his father both came out of the highest elite occult organizations, the Yale Skull and Bones. So they always give us their leaders. In one election, we had Bush versus Kerry running for president, and Kerry is also a member of Skull and Bones. What are the odds of that the two presidential on the left and the presidential on the right would both come out of Skull and Bones society? So here's that logo of Skull and Bones. You can see it's not a Christian organization. And I remember after 9/11, when Bush and our troops were bombing Iraq, I was thinking they were getting the bad guys who did 9/11. But I had a check in my spirit, and I started thinking that, wait a sec, the Lord Jesus does not want us to bomb and kill the nations. He wanted to be a light to the nations. And so the more I thought about it, there was kind of a light that went on, and I thought, oh, wait a sec, they're building out world government. under the guise of beating down these terrorists in all these lands. And it's the same thing in Israel with Gaza today. And some people may not like this, but this is how I see it. Jesus never said, go and kill a bunch of people. And the whole Gaza thing is a phony false flag anyway, as it was guided, directed, and allowed by Israel and the globalists to most likely bring in the Third World War that they have wanted for hundreds of years. Way back, Albert Pike spoke of this needing 3 world wars 150 years ago. So, what started out with a bunch of guys in pickup trucks supposedly sneaking over Israel's border and attacking some hippie Israelites who were peace-loving, no war type Israelites that are really against killing people in Gaza. So, if you were in Gaza, those would be the last people you'd want to kill, or the people in Israel that are kind of on your side. But anyway, when I was in Israel 40 years ago, I saw them nab a Palestinian who had snuck over this border fence, and they got these big X's, with barbed wire, and it's all motion detectors. And I just came around the corner, and there were 3 police cars as they were grabbing this one guy who snuck across the border. And I recently saw interviews with Israeli soldiers who said there is no way that Israel's military was caught off guard by this. They have a state-of-the-art military and surveillance, and they watch their borders. But these 2 people in security, one lady and one guy, different interviews, they said they worked for the military in I forget what it's called, but something to do with security. And they said a rat cannot approach the border without them being aware of it. How much more a bunch of Gaza people in pickup trucks, and that's all they have there. They don't have a tank, in Gaza. They can't really drive a tank and run over the fence, but somehow they came across in pickup trucks. That's all they got. So they're really not a threat to anybody. But if you watch Fox News, and Fox, remember, we'll see about that later. If you watch their deceptive programming, Jesus warned of the Fox, then you will be certain that it was evil Gaza people that did all this, and they started this, and that's why we're getting ready for World War III. So I just say that to beware of globalist deception coming through the TV. You can't sit before the TV and not be deceived. Satan is too good at what he does. You'll think they're your opinions, but it's picking it up from what they're bringing. And this is why Jesus warned of political leader in his days, Herod. Remember, we are looking at globalist deception that God, Jesus, and the apostles warned was coming our way. So we got to really stay on our toes. Mark 8:15. And he, Jesus, was giving orders to them, saying, watch out and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Now you think, wait a sec, what leaven would Herod have? He didn't teach Bible studies. We know that the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees was their doctrine. But what's the leaven of Herod? Well, Herod's father, or his grandfather, I can't remember which right offhand, was responsible for building the amazing temple known as Herod's Temple that was there in Jesus' day. Something the Jews were very proud of because it pictured the good old days when David and Solomon had built the glorious temple. now Herod has rebuilt it to a real beautiful degree. The leaven of Herod was to side with Herod in a political way, thinking that God would use him to overthrow Rome. But it was Rome that set Herod in his position, giving Israel their leader. So Herod was never going to be a legitimate threat to Rome to make Israel great again. The leaven of Herod was to get wrapped up in the political process because that process is completely controlled by big money in our day, especially. And it was controlled by Rome in their days. They put Herod up so that the Israelites felt like they still had, their guy. In reality, Herod was against God, and he certainly wasn't going to free the people from Rome's yoke. Matthew 2:16. And when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged, and he sent and slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem. So he's trying to kill the Messiah when he was born. Herod also had John the Baptist beheaded in prison. The man Jesus said there was no prophet greater than. Herod listened to his wife who wanted John dead. So Herod had to be beheaded. And John the Baptist had to be beheaded. And it was Herod that sent Matthew 14:10. And he sent and had John beheaded in the prison. And Herod, the political leader, turned against Christ when he was at the end of his ministry, wanting to kill him. Luke 13:31. Just at that time, some Pharisees came up and they're talking to Jesus and they say, "Go away and depart from here, for Herod wants to kill you." So Herod wanted to kill him. And he said to them, "Go and tell that fox," and the blue word there is actually the, so it says, "Go and tell the fox, behold, I cast out demons and perform cures today and tomorrow. The third day I reach my goal." So Jesus knew that Herod was not somebody, he was a trickster. He was not anybody that should be followed. And so he warned his disciples, beware of the leaven of Herod. Don't ever get involved in that. So the question is, will the globalist leaders raise up a leader for us today? Well, that's what's being portrayed. Actually, what's being portrayed is that he's against the globalists, but they're the ones that are really raising him up. So I'm just showing here, this is Trump with Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. And I know people say, "Oh yeah, but he was there infiltrating," or he don't worry, he's Trump is listed as an agenda contributor with the WEF since 2017 or so. And his daughter is also listed as an unspecified member, whatever that is. So Ivanka Trump is listed as an unspecified WEF member. Now, Ivanka Trump married the owner, Kushner, who owned the 666 building in New York. It was sold. It was the most expensive building ever sold in New York. But this is a family that comes out of the 666 network, you could say. And of course, Trump hired Kushner to be his guy to the nations, whatever it is, I forget. You read Wikipedia and it says Ivanka, his daughter, who's with the WEF listed, she was a Democrat from 1999 to 2018. And then she was a Republican from 2018 to the present. So basically, when her dad became president, she said, well, I'll become a Republican. And
Hey, Al,
yeah,
they also converted to Judaism.
right.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And Trump comes from Jewish roots. He's what's called a crypto Jew, where they're Jewish, but they don't put it out. Because a lot of times Gentiles don't trust the Jewish leaders, so they have ones like Rockefeller and different ones, but they don't say they're Jewish. They're portrayed more as Gentile. But yeah, thanks for that good point, Lynn. But anyway, just the point that Trump was also a Democrat, and he gave money to 100,000 or more to the Hillary Clinton campaign. So does somebody who's that involved with the Democrat Party, does it make sense that they all of a sudden, oh, poof, now I love the Clintons, I'm good friends with the Clintons, but oh, hey, boy, now I'm a right-wing Republican, I'm going to lead this party, Does that really fit? Now, both Trump and his daughter also gave money to Kamala Harris when she was running for Attorney General in San Francisco. And the Catholic Church had a big lawsuit going on against it. They had like 80 years, the previous Attorney General had put together 80 years of history of child molestation accusations against the Catholic Church in San Francisco. But when they got whatever her name is, Kamala, in, she dropped all charges and the case was dismissed and dropped. So it kind of shows you where they're coming from. But anyway, Trump and his daughter sent money for her to be elected to that position. She was also senior advisor to the President of the United States. How does she get to be senior advisor? Well, because of her husband and be connected to the group that her husband is connected to. So here's Trump with Epstein. You probably heard about all this, but so here's Trump quote on what's his name? Howard Stern radio show. He says, oh yeah, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, says Donald Trump. So you don't go to these parties, be a Democrat, sending money to Hillary, hang out with high-level Mossad operatives, and go to their parties, and then all of a sudden become a God Bless America right-wing Christian. It's too much of a stretch. And then below, Trump was on multiple times. He was a guest on Robert Maxwell's yacht. So here's Trump with Robert Maxwell on his yacht. This is Maxwell over here. Now his daughter is Ghislaine Maxwell, who's the babe of Jeffrey Epstein. So it's all one big happy family, and Trump's a part of it. And he didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a right-wing Republican and God Bless America guy. I'm going to lead. I'm going to fight these globalists. But that's what's being portrayed now. So is this man now reformed, courageously fighting the deep state? Or is this part of the deception that God, the Lord Jesus, and the apostles warned us about?
Mm-hmm.
To help bring about the prophesied race wars, will it be Kamala as the new president? She doesn't look black to me, but I guess she's portrayed as that. But anyway, So if Biden drops out, then Trump would run against her, and they would portray this as this big black against white, and the blacks are rising up, and that's what they're trying to portray and what they're trying to bring about, because they want the race wars that the Bible talks about. And I used to think it was God doing, when you see earthquakes and famines, I thought, oh, God is doing these things. But more and more, I think it's the one worlders that are doing these things. They're putting nuclear things in the oceans and controlling the weather and everything. But that's a whole nother subject. But anyway, they sure are invested heavily in trying to separate the races under the guise of, that they care so much. It's interesting that Gerald Ford, who was a 33rd degree Freemason, he was our president back in the 80s, I guess. So being a 33rd degree highest Freemason, he would know the secrets. But he said in 1989 that the first woman president would come in because a president steps down. So if Biden is, continues with his dementia and downward spiral, it's definitely possible they could raise up Kamala. They raised her up for some reason, and maybe this is why. Anyway, it's obvious that the TV news and the media have been fomenting a race war for years. They act like they really care about racism and hate crimes, but in reality, they just keep poking both sides with a big stick, pressing the hot buttons to get people riled up on both sides. So here's where Jesus said, nation will rise against nation. So the Greek word is ethnos. We get our word ethnic from that. So however they bring it about, we want to not be ignorant and not get pulled into their wars and see the devil's hand in fomenting these things. So how do we protect ourselves from deception? We realize our lower nature. And when we want something really bad enough, you will often see it that way. That's human nature. It's like people in my family. If I bring anything about Trump, oh my, they're shocked. How could I think such a thing? No matter how factual or clear or obvious it is in the history, they can't bear it, because they just can't bear to have our country taken down. So it's all the show. They know by having Biden and everything fall apart, and of course it's not Biden, it's the whole court system, all the Freemason judges. I saw a deal the other day, and I know I have this in my notes somewhere later, but a woman and her boyfriend went home and smoked a joint, and then something happened between them, and she freaked out and stabbed him 108 times. Well, it went to trial, and the judge gave the penalty was 2 years probation for killing a guy and stabbing him 108 times, 2 years probation. So you can bet for sure that she was a Freemason judge, but they're bringing in lawlessness on purpose. We might want the USA to be like everything we've been taught in the movies. All that Hollywood, there's a reason that Hollywood brought us all these movies for so many years, and we were brought up with, and making us think this was our country, and yeah, we're this, but now they're letting us know, no, we're in control, and we're bringing in all this other stuff to destroy you. So the same people who grew us up with these movies are now turning and showing that they want the USA to be taken down. That's why crime is now legal. The borders are wide open. It's all by design. they're not that stupid where they don't know how to secure a border. They're smart enough to do that. Are the Hollywood movie producers who taught us to love country and salute the flag and be God bless America, are these people helping to save America now? No, they are a major part of bringing in the demonic movies, the race wars, everything else that is happening. So we need to admit that we have been played, but not allow them to continue playing and deceiving us. They who control the beast want the USA to be taken down hard and subservient. When you look at the beast in Revelation 12 and 13, there's nothing there that shows America and Donald Trump coming forward to knock down the beast. You won't see that in any of the scriptures there. So Hollywood is going to go right along with this, corrupting and deceiving us through through the media and the movies. And they always put out in the movies what they will be bringing. Several months before 9/11 happened, the Illuminati show that has the Mark of the Beast logo on it. See the X with the circle? That's Mark of the Beast. What's his name? The highest occult member. Can anybody remember the guy's name? He was on the Beatles cover. And
Was it not Anton LaVey, was it?
no, he's the head of the Satanist Church.
Was it Alistair something?
Yes,
Crowley?
Aleister Crowley. Good one. Yeah, he was the one that explained and exposed that is the Mark of the Beast sign. It has to do with Nodens and I don't know. And they draw a circle around, like the highest occult symbol is the star of what they call the Star of David with a circle around it. And the circle kind of encompasses and locks in the power. And so they use that for occult reasons. But anyway, I'm just saying this TV show, The X-Files, 6 months before 9/11 happened, their inaugural show where a powerful group used a remote control to fly airplanes into the World Trade Center, i.e. the Twin Towers. You used to be able to get on YouTube and watch sections of this episode, but now YouTube has scrubbed them because the controllers didn't want you to see that. So now they're coming out, Hollywood, with these new movies in the same way like this happened. They roll it out always ahead of time. They did the same thing with COVID-19. They had real scary, horrific virus movies, that came out. And then poof, we get COVID, so they always lay it out ahead of time and pre-program the people. So here soon is coming Civil War, a movie trailer. And I'll play this 2-minute trailer here. So here's a clip from this new movie coming out, Civil War. And it starts out, this is just the trailer. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
And it says 19 states have seceded. So here they're laying it out, letting you know what's coming, but they're acting like, oh, golly gee, we were just doing a movie, But anyway, you'll see the slippery hand of the devil in here as we watch. It's only 2 minutes, but I think you'll find it interesting. I'll make sure, check with you to see if you can hear the volume.
States have seceded. The United States Army ramps up activity.
Could you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising.
notice that, the Florida Alliance. And they assured that the uprising would be dealt with swiftly.
Will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war?
So here this guy is saying, hey, are you, they're in this little small town, and are you guys at war? There's a huge civil war going on. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting this, but they have reasons for all they do. And so this one girl that's just reading a book, she says, well, I try not to watch the news. And of course, they portray her as just the absolute idiot that's not being fed Fox News programming day by day. But anyway, here, this guy is saying, hello, knock, knock. Are you aware there's a war going on?
Swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western.
So you see two stars on the flag. I don't know if that means, the two sides of the, the split in the country or what.
Forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
So they're getting it ready, to airstrikes against U.S. citizens.
Moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death. Blooded.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
So you can see what the deal is here. And, I haven't watched, I don't know what this movie's going to be, but I know it, if it's Hollywood, it'll be phony and it'll, this guy is, he's the white guy, right-wing Trump supporter. And then this other poor guy is just, you don't know, he's probably the nice guy, but he's going to get shot because he has a little bit of color to him.
What? Well,
you don't know if he's an illegal alien or what. Anyway, all these things, every role, every person they put in each position is all, to get people worked up.
American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car!
And a lot of people are being ramped up to this, to go in militias, to get involved. It's Biden against us. It's our man and Biden against us.
Move, move, move!
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So they take over the White House, like the phony thing that it was portrayed that Trump did it and his people did an insurrection. It's all, scripted and phony.
God bless America.
So you can kind of feel the power of that. They're gonna more and more try to get people into these things. And let me show you one more thing. Is it sharing now?
Yes.
Oh, great. And so the Civil War is probably what they want now, divide and conquer. So they are pushing this theme. And of course, the devil always wants to kill and destroy. They probably never could have got away with it 20 years ago, but now they've been working left and right and so, and they're building up, getting people to, you know, and so just as if it's happening on cue, we have this Hollywood movie. So here's an article that says Texas has been warned. And you guys probably know more about this than I do, because like I say, I watch YouTube here and there, but I don't watch the news, so I don't even have a clue much. But anyway, so these are the states that are going along with Texas, because Texas is saying, hey, we're going to put up some barbed wire because we can't handle all these aliens that are streaming in. We can't pay for it all. And so Biden, I guess, and then these other states, of course, our glorious Inslee is with Biden to say, oh, just open your borders, don't put up barbed wire. But these other states, the red ones, are saying, yeah, we agree with Texas, you know. So they're laying, you know, the groundwork. And you can see if this happens, it'd really be a real split, because you got red coming down through here, and then these guys can't come across. You know, we won't let any of you come through our place, and you can't. I mean, you know, who knows what they're going to try to turn it into. I saw one deal where patriots, you know, good Americans were going down to the borders with drones, and they were taking videos of all these migrants streaming in. You know, it was like train loads just sitting on top, just filled. And the border agents were telling them, commanding them, stop filming, take your drones and get out of here. Because the border agents are just employees. They're told from the top down, don't let people come down and film. We don't want this seen. And so otherwise you'd think the border agents are like, yeah, film this, you know, help us. We're really trying to fight to keep these people from coming in. But no, it's the exact opposite. They're told to let them all in. So the devil is known as the lawless one. So it fits that the Freemason, well, I already read this part. And again, it's not all bad Joe Biden, although that's what it portrayed as. Boy, if we could just get rid of Joe Biden, but it's completely across. It's a whole network of Freemason judges, corporate owners. They're all going to be involved. It's called Rockefeller Operation Lockstep, that you can even go read on a PDF on their website, where all these corporations, all these things are to operate in lockstep. So when they come out with the rule, no masks, everybody, whether you're on the left or right, all line right up, and this is the law. So Jesus warned in Matthew 24 that because of lawlessness, and remember, the devil is the lawless one, but because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. And this is part of why the devil is bringing in all this lawlessness and having no penalties for crimes and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So how do we avoid the globalist deception? So Jesus said, Father, if thou art willing, remove this cup from me, yet not as I will, but thy will be done. And so that's the key, is we have to say, Lord, your will be done. Help us to go by your word. And then Jesus said, you know, and help us to see what world leaders are for us, what world leaders are not really for us, not get pulled into the leaven of Herod. Jesus said, if any man is willing to do his will, he shall know of the teaching, whether it is of God or whether I speak from myself. So that was all that was needed in Jesus' day, is a willingness to do God's will. And then you would see, wow, Jesus is the Messiah. His teaching is true. But those that wanted things their own way, like the Pharisees, and wanted their network and their control grid of doctrine and whatever, then they're not going to know Jesus' teaching is from God. Or as Young's literal says, if anyone may will to do his will, he shall know concerning the teaching, whether it is of God or whether I speak from myself. Let me show this one more clip here real quick. Hopefully I can find this. Oh, let's see. Yet how to do this. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so this is in the WAF. Is this showing now, this guy here with the glasses?
Yes.
Okay. So this is titled WAF Gets Dose of Reality from Invited Guest. So let me first show this first clip. This lady, she's, high level, and she's one of Klaus Schwab's buddies, and she's talking about what the WAF needs to do. And it's interesting that she says disinformation. In other words, that's the next thing the WF is going after, is all these people who believe in any kind of a conspiracy. Oh no, we're the WF. We love you. We're here to help and save you from disease X. So here's what she says.
Listen to her. Watch this.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear Klaus, your annual global risk report makes for a stunning and sobering read. For the global business community, the top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict or climate. It is disinformation and misinformation.
Now notice, that's for the next 2 years.
Followed closely by polarization. The top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict or climate. It is disinformation and misinformation. Followed closely by polarization within our societies.
Oh, they just want love. They don't want polarization.
These risks are serious because they limit our ability to tackle the big global challenges we are facing. Changes in our climate.
And what she doesn't know is there's this thing called the sun. And when the sun comes up, things get real hot. John will know this, and it's called climate change. The climate gets hotter when the sun comes up. But they're going to save us from all that.
And our geopolitical climate.
Now, there's a lot of people out there, liberal pundits usually, sometimes conservative.
Let me go back to this other part here.
And trying to hash out amongst each other, the American people doing that, somehow that's not democratic.
These risks are serious because they limit our ability to tackle the big global challenges we are facing. Changes in our climate.
Clearly, the democratic process is just too tedious for them. It's too messy. It slows down progress. Now, watch Kevin Roberts call them out on this, be as blunt and based as he could with them, something I'm sure they relish. The fight I'm referring to, I'm sure they relish. Well, here's the...
Now, this is being portrayed like, oh, golly gee, somebody at the WEF is withstanding them. So they always want to have a war, a right-left kind of war that they control. So they have their leader control, act like they're fighting against the globalists. So we're going to see. But these people are smart enough. They don't invite David Wilkerson to come speak at their conference. You know.
Exchange, watch.
Let's me come back, Kevin. Let me come to you because I said I wanted. It's quite good in the way that Jerry set it up. What did the president? What do you think? President Trump. He's the president from being the former president. But if there were a new President Trump, what does he mean by retribution? What is the issue calling out very specifically a former Attorney General and former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and so on? I mean, it sounds very personal. And you said yourself a minute ago, anyone who's kind of not with the program is not going to be in an administration. You know, one thing that Davos, you might say, and the people come here stand up for is liberal democracy. So if the idea that's going to be swept under the table is part of the idea, hopefully that's not what he means. What do you mean? What do you think he means by retribution?
Well, it's laughable that you would, or anyone would describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. It's equally,
standing up for it.
It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question.
Yep.
And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president is going to take on the power of the elites, which I've mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here,
So this is the thing of what's being portrayed is what's coming is Trump versus the elites. So it's Trump and the good old right wing, God bless America, is going to, you know, take on the elites, and somehow we're going to, we, the good guys, are going to take America back, do all these things. So just about ready to close here, but so just showing you some articles, you know, here's one. It says, "This is war, the globalists versus Trump." Here's another one. "Get ready. In 24 hours, the deep state mafia will go nuclear on Trump." That comes from Redacted News Live. So they're portraying this coming war between Don Trump and the leaders at the WEF, the elites, the deep state. He's going to gear up and really take them on. Here's another one. "Trump just called the globalist bluff, and it's about to get real." Redacted News. And I've watched that Redacted News. You know, the guy and the lady seem like super good. But one thing about them I remembered early on is they were talking about 9/11, and they were like, by the way, what started, how did they know it was those 19 terrorists? And they were like, oh yeah, I don't know. And I even left them a comment. I said, come on, you guys are the leaders of truth, and you don't know how they caught the 19 terrorists? Well, the way they caught them is just as phony as anything.
Right.
The airplanes ran into the building, remember, and just were blown up, decimated, nothing but power. There was no computer found, no nothing. But somehow one of the terrorist passports fell out of his pocket and flew down to the ground. No other mementos anywhere, but it was a terrorist passport. And so a cop happened to pick it up, so, you know, as the story goes, and turned it in. And then they went over to that terrorist condo, and he had 19 pictures of the terrorist cohorts. So right away, we were given these 19 pictures of these terrorists. You know, that's how it happened. But anyway, these guys pretended not to know. And so then another article, I don't know if this is them again, it says, "Military and deep state plan a coup if Trump wins." So here you've got this whole picture of this boy, golly gee, we're going to ride in with Trump and the whole military. He doesn't know what to do with him, you know. So here's Daniel 7:19 speaking about this beast that we're coming into now, this seventh beast. And he says, Daniel says, I desired to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all others, exceedingly dreadful, with teeth of iron and its claws of bronze, of which devoured and crushed and trampled down the feet. So I quote here and I say, this beast was exceedingly dreadful, crushing nations. But when it saw Donald Trump coming, it ran and hid in the caves. So that's kind of what we're supposed to believe, that, but no, we don't see that in the Bible at all. We see this fourth beast devouring, and the only thing that does anything is the man-child who gives it a death blow. Trump is not pictured there as the leader. And verse 20, you know, and the meaning of the 10 horns that were on its head. So they were on this seventh beast's head. And the other horn which came up before which 3 horns fell, namely that horn which had eyes. He had certain eyes about him and a mouth uttering great boasts. Remember, we saw that in Revelation 13, great blasphemies against God and his tabernacle, and which was larger in appearance. I think what it actually says there, his look was more stout than his associates, because he had Satan dwelling within. Anyway, so here's Fordham Jesuit University, and this is a Catholic, well, it's one of our sisters, and you can say who, but in case you don't want known who, mention that the Jesuits are the military arm of the Catholic Church. So here's Fordham and Trump here at the tip. So Trump is the tip of the spear at Fordham Jesuit University. So they've had their eyes on him for a long time. Quoting from www.fordham.edu, they say, at Fordham, one experiences the same Jesuit approach to education that has endured since the founding of the Society of Jesus by St. Ignatius of Loyola. Now, does that make sense that somebody coming out of that would go to Judaism? Someone who is the tip of the spear? So something's not quite right there. Why would the Jewish Trump go to a Catholic military Jesuit college?
Al,
Yeah, Bonnie?
I have 2 of my cousins went to Fordham,
Yeah.
and I have at least one nephew that's gone to Fordham. It you know, it's not necessarily a military school, but it's a very, very excellent school.
Yeah.
In New York City. It's one of the best schools around. It's not a huge school like, say, you know, Harvard or Yale, but it is a very good school.
It's pretty elite, yeah. And I said that wrong if I said it was a military school, but you can see they're decked out in something here, what they got Trump into, but yeah, it's what I was saying is Jesuits are considered to be the military arm of the Catholic Church. But yeah,
right.
Of course,
Right.
lots of good people go to this school and that kind of thing. But
wasn't he also sent to a military high school?
I don't remember that, but I'm
Yeah,
guessing you're probably right.
He was sent to a military high school because he was you know, he gave his dad a lot of trouble from what I read. So
Yeah.
he actually was in a military school before he graduated from high school.
Yeah, I do remember that it was portrayed he was kind of hard to discipline, so they sent him
Yeah.
to a strict school. that happened to my brother too. He got sent up to Canada because he was in trouble, getting in so much trouble and kicked out of schools and stuff. And
Yeah,
they whipped him into shape for sure.
yeah.
So now they got this 700,000 trucker convoy to the border. And so, like they did in Canada, they started seizing people's accounts who gave donations to the, remember what it was? I think it was trucks that were going up there. Well, now they'll do the same thing here and say, oh, golly gee, we have to be able to seize people's accounts that are these
Right.
bad people supporting the evil, the supporting freedom. And some of these people are actually against Klaus Schwab. We can't allow this.
Right. That's
And this one video here, this Congressman, Andy Biggs, claims that the WHO is planning to use the next epidemic to impose world governance. So this is a congressman right on the floor. Of course, there was nobody there that day, just empty seats. But he was doing his speech about that the WHO is planning to use the next epidemic to impose world governance. So we're getting that from all places. And we're getting all this mass flooding, all kinds of things slowly taking down and wounding and weakening and damaging the country. They also, some of you might have seen the witch doctor at the WEF. We're out of time, so I won't show this, but at the WEF, they had this witch doctor, and he would go, or she, I think it might have been a lady, but they were all sitting in that big thing, where Klaus Schwab was, and about 10 of them, and she would go one to another and kind of like blow real loud in their face, just like, like this or something, like she was, one of our sisters said it looked like she was imparting a demon to each one. And yeah, I think but it was like literally a witch doctor at this recent WEF thing. And then here is this governor of California, Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, I think. So more from the intense floods to devastating storms, we're seeing the effects of climate change firsthand in New York. So they create these big things, and then they're saying, oh, it's all because of climate change. Somehow we got to, send a missile up into space, or, cool down the sun by getting a fire extinguisher on it. They're going to fix it. They got ways. And so they're saying we need to submit to the WEF and all these globalists to help climate change. So she says that's why we're committing 435 million of New York people tax dollars to help make our communities, homes, and infrastructure more resilient against the devastating impacts of climate change. So it's like they've created this boogeyman that the climate changing is somehow, what the whole world needs to revolve around. Now, this is something that was posted on the Going On from Community Chapel website. I don't know this guy, but I've seen him, and he seems to be kind of a spiritual minded guy, but I can't say anything more than that about him. I don't know if he, is to the left or right or what, or straight on. I don't know, but here's what he feels like he received from the Lord. And I think some of this fits, although I don't know if the time is right now. He seems to think it's very imminent the way he writes here, but I'll read this. The Lord just spent some time warning me that massive changes that are going to completely freak out people and send them into a mighty rage are imminent. So everything we've seen kind of goes along with that, doesn't it? So he's saying, get right with God, listen to him, pray, read his word, keep your head down until he says jump and shout, and keep your eyes on him alone. I cannot even begin to convey what I have heard, but everything that can be shaken will be shaken. This is a spiritual war, and hordes of wicked spirits, I believe that, are being released along with angels to fight them. Be sober and vigilant, brethren, and do not trust fake Christians, whatever he might mean by that. And so then this guy comes on and is kind of saying, you know, hey, why would the Lord give this guy this info but not really tell us what it is? But anyway, it does appear from everything that's happening all at once that they're bringing in a multifaceted attack. And so we'll need to keep our eyes focused on the Lord and on his word so that we're not swayed to the left or carried about by any of their things. This talks about the Fed prepares for a bank crisis while telling Americans the economy is strong. So this was out of Bloomberg. So they put this stuff out ahead of time. But I'm just a few minutes over, so I better close with that. I see somebody sent a chat. I'm sorry I missed it. Paula says, hi, I'm on a call having to leave. I'll find out what is going on and try to get back. So yeah, sorry, Paula, I didn't see that during the thing. But anyway, my brethren, sorry I forgot to pray. Hopefully I did hit record, didn't I?
I don't know. I didn't see it come up.
Hey, Alex,
Yeah, John?
sound like John 8:44, all that you've been talking about.
And what's
In John 8:44,
okay, let
about
me
what's
look
going
real
on.
quick. Yeah, Jesus says, talking to the Pharisees, you are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, like these people that follow him in the WF and all that. And he abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh it of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it, or the father of lies, as NES says. So, okay, brethren, well, hopefully, oh my word, I don't think I hit record. Is that possible?
You did, Al. At least
Oh.
I got a notice.
Okay, yeah, I thought I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still flashing on the upper corner from my phone. That
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm not seeing anywhere where it normally says end recording.
We saw it too, Al. We saw the flash.
Yeah, we had to hit the got it button.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just hit end and hopefully that'll end the recording then. But anyway, I did forget to pray, so sorry about that. But Lord bless everyone. And like I say, I don't like to make this the focus, but every now and then I think when stuff is coming out left and right, it's good that we look at it. So, okay, my brethren, Lord bless each one.
All right.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thanks, Al.
Good to see everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Lord.
you.
Take
Love
care.
you.
Love you.
Al.
Yeah.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
God bless.
Take care. Be safe.
Yes.
Amen.